back. I will bring it back. USA, USA, USA.
Cette élection américaine ouvre une période d'incertitude.
I will bring it back. I will bring it back.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we should do something about that. Okay, that's better. Welcome to Difference Day, the 3rd edition already. What an honor to be on this stage with all of you guys. We're all gathered here with one purpose, to celebrate the freedom of press. To honor all of those people who fight for this right each and every day. So thank you for being committed and being here tonight. Allow me to accompany you this evening as we will hear great keynotes, award excellent journalists, and reflect about how to survive in times of fake news. I won't be making too many jokes, so none of you would feel uncomfortable. When I accidentally do, I'd like it when you would laugh a bit or try to laugh. Also, I have a very big surprise in just a few minutes. But first, for those of you who feel the urge of checking social media during the event, please do and make a buzz. While you're at it, our hashtag is DD17 at Difference Day 16. Make no mistake, also people at home who are watching online, welcome to you as well. And you can also check in on Twitter and tweet with the hashtag DD17. So, I was thinking, why not start this evening with a bang? What if I told you that our first guest is someone very famous? Like in Belgium we say BV, but much bigger. This person is much bigger. Some called him a hero, a whistleblower even. Some called him a dissident, a traitor, and a patriot. So the least we can say, I guess, is that he's a subject of controversy. So what an honor to have him here, or nearby. Good evening, Edward Snowden. Wow, you're really here. Very glad to see you. Are you happy to be with us here in Brussels today? So we have to, there's no sound. What a pity. I'm sorry, Mr. Snowden, but there's something about the sound that doesn't work. So can you give us just a second? What a pity that we didn't hear his answer. Is there anyone out there to help us? We saw him, he's there. Now just the sound of him. Nope, nothing. Well, this is great for me. Anyone a joke to tell while we're waiting? Nope, I think I have to shut up. Is anybody out there? Edward Snowden, for instance. While we're waiting for Edward Snowden, I would like to call 2 people at the stage because they're going to ask questions to him. First of all, Karel van den Broek from APAS. And also, I'm going to seek for her name, Marleen from Crossworks. An applause, please. I'm getting my microphone. So, while we're waiting, do you already know what you're going to ask Edward Snowden?
Yes, I think we would like to know how he is and whether he, when he did what he did in 2013, whether he was aware of the consequences that would have, because it's an act of courage what he did, but was he really aware that the storm he would create? He's now in exile, so it's from a pure, regardless of the opinion you have on Snowden as a human being, it's it's a very precarious situation where he is in now, and that I would like to ask him.
Can you hear me?
Do you think he would do it again?
I think a man who did something like he did once in a lifetime is more than enough.
Okay. So do we have another connection with Edward Snowden?
Audio check. Can you hear me?
I didn't get that.
Okay, great.
Wow.
All right, thank you for your patience, everyone.
So,
you know, the fun thing about having the world's most advanced intelligence agencies, surveillance bureaus, and things like that always criticizing you is you never know if the problems that you have are just technology or a little something extra.
it was extra. So, we're going to skip a part. I'm not going to ask you again if you're still happy to be with us. I'm assuming yes? Okay, great. So, I have two people here who are dying to ask you a question. So, I will let them. Marleen, take it away.
Please.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Snowden, Edward. I'm Marleen Wijnands. This is Karel van den Broek. We're the ones who sent you the text a couple of days ago. And I first want to start because we wanted to dedicate this session with you to Gavin McFadyen, whom you know. Gavin died in October, and with him, I guess, we lost a wonderful journalist, an activist for investigative journalism, for hackers, for whistleblowers, and who really was working on the case of Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, and yourself. So he's not longer here with us, but he was here 2 years ago, introducing Citizen 4, the documentary by Laura Poitras, a documentary that you're pretty familiar with too, I guess. So, to start with the topic of today, of this Difference Day, it's fake news. And years ago, a tiny press could make life of politicians miserable because of the huge social impact. Today, it's like the other way around. Gigantic media structures serve a very small social function, in fact. Fake news, call it false news, call it utterly bullshit or propaganda. They rule the media, and so you know about this more than anybody here in this room. One of the main issues or questions is, how do we tackle this? And last Saturday there was in The Guardian a story, an article by on Jim Wales of Wikipedia, who's launching his Wiki Tribune. You probably heard about this. So he pleads for evidence-based journalism. Do you think the Wikipedia method is a way to go? First question, and a second one underneath it, it's like, what can the public or what can the readers do?
Yeah, I think this is really one of the central challenges that we're facing is, look, the current proposal from the government types of the world, we see it on the front page of the UK newspapers in London, all throughout the last week, is to say, all right, let's let Google and Facebook start proactively censoring news stories and articles and postings and speech that they consider to be fake news. Now, even if we presume this is done with the best of faith, the best intentions, and they try to do a careful job, this is a fundamentally dangerous practice for free and open societies to be embracing. We're saying we want private for-profit companies deciding what people can and can't see, what can and cannot be said, right? And it's a very sad truth that in the world there are things that can't be said. But they're not all lies. The problem is when we have legitimate, truly fake news, right? Fake things saying, you know, the moon landings didn't happen, things like that. Saying that this person was a criminal when there weren't, there's no evidence. Or when we create, you know, these conspiracies that malign institutions, movements, figures. These all have corrosive impacts. But does it have a greater impact than censorship? Particularly because even if we have, shall we say, responsible institutions doing this in a very careful, very forthright way, we are creating a
Wow. Houston, we again have a problem. And he's out. You think he will be back?
He will be back.
Did you get an answer already, or were you hoping for more?
I just guess we'll just have to wait for a couple of minutes.
Karel, you want to say something? It's Edward Snowden, people. We have to be patient, really.
Maybe somebody's...
Really, I think the CIA is somewhere hacking him or something. You never know when he's safe, so everything we get, we will be grateful for. Now you can check in on Twitter and tweet with the hashtag DD17 and tell people how you're watching a live Skype with Edward Snowden. Please do. Because we were and we will be. There he is again.
Okay.
No,
right,
just...
Well, I gotta say, this never really happens to this extent, but just to finish up, the idea here is, if the best of us decide that censorship is a good idea in narrow circumstances, the worst of us, the most authoritarian, unjust regimes on earth, will use this as a justification to squelch and quiet the people who are most at risk, the people who are pulling forward the progress of their countries, right? In places like Russia, China, Sub-Saharan Africa, places like this, the Middle East, as well as in Western democracies, in disfavored minority political groups, we will see repression and a kind of aggressive censorship start to blossom in new ways, because once you've opened that door, you can't close it again ever quite so easily.
We are going to thank you so much for this first answer, but we're going to try a second one.
Okay, Mr. Snowden, when you leaked the NSA secrets to the press, you did that because you were convinced that the surveillance activities of the Secret Service were unconstitutional. If it wasn't for your decision to leak these secrets, citizens all over the world would not have known that their privacy was, and maybe still is, violated every day by the same governments they have elected. This is a huge responsibility for one man, and you are now living in exile. Your future is uncertain. So I presume that this was not what you expected to be the consequence of your act in 2013. What was on your mind, and how did you think, what would you think the day after you leaked would happen?
I don't want to spend too much time here because there's a lot on the public record. I actually answered this on camera for Citizen 4. My government has a very predictable response. I expected to spend the rest of my life in prison, regardless of whether I did of what I did was right or wrong, regardless of whether the activities of the United States government were lawful or unlawful. And mind you, since 2013, the federal courts have ruled that the NSA's activities were, in fact, unlawful. And this was held up by a court of appeals. The bottom line is people who tell the truth in ways that are embarrassing for those in the positions of greatest privilege, of greatest power, will be retaliated against. We've seen this in the case of people at the NSA, such as Thomas Drake, Bill Binney, Kurt Wiebe, and Loomis. We've seen this in the case of the Iraq war activities with Chelsea Manning, who revealed the video that showed U.S. military firing upon unarmed journalists from Reuters, firing upon a van that had children in it that had come to aid the wounded. In the case of WikiLeaks and these kind of things, these are all different cases, right? But there's always a common theme here, which is if the government breaks the law, there will be no consequences for the lawbreakers. But if a citizen, acting in good faith, reveals that the government broke the law by releasing classified information, even in the most careful way to journalists, they will be wanted for the rest of their life. And I think that's a very negative precedent and something that we should resist.
Okay, thank you, and I wish you all the luck.
Thank you so much, Mr. Snowden. He's gone already. We were having some sound issues. I apologize for that. But I think maybe he was being hacked. We will never know. So, let's move on. I think we all know our next guest, especially from all the social and digital innovation he aspires and often achieves with his company BuzzFeed. Today, we are very honored that he wanted to join us. All the way from Toronto, please welcome keynote speaker Craig Silverman, media editor for BuzzFeed. Media editor for BuzzFeed, he will enlighten us with his thoughts on fake news. So I was going to bring you that.
Hello, everyone. I hope you've had a great day. There were some great panels, some great sessions today, and I hope you had a chance to take it in. It was roughly about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, that I was running BuzzFeed Canada, our editorial team there. And our editor-in-chief came to me and he said, you know, before you joined us, you were tracking misinformation, you were debunking hoaxes, and we hired you and you built a team in Canada, but now I want you to go back and do what you were doing before for us. And so we've spent a year at BuzzFeed with a team, a small team, but training people around the world in our organization to try and track online misinformation, to debunk hoaxes, and to really understand the effect that platforms like Facebook, the effect that ad networks, and all of these other big players in the digital ecosystem have been having. And so what I want to share with you is some of the lessons, some of the things, the takeaways that we have after a year of really focusing on this. And because I work at BuzzFeed, I did make a list, which is the way we often do things. And so in this sense, it's a list of some of the true things that we've found about the fake news that we see out there. One of the, I think, important things that has been reinforced a lot today, but that it is very complex. People use the term fake news, and it means different things to different people. And the reality is that online misinformation is very complex, and there are lots of different types of it. And this image here kind of reinforces that. So these are 7 different types of misinformation and disinformation. This was produced by an organization called First Draft. And it ranges all the way from satirical articles meant to be funny or social commentary being misconstrued and misinterpreted to completely false information being created to deceive people, sometimes for political motives, propaganda, or sometimes with financial motives, which is what I consider to be fake news. And so we have a really complex problem, and I think this is a very confusing thing, not just for journalists, but especially for the average person out there to navigate this world and to receive information in such new ways. So it's not a simple problem, it's complex, and there's lots of different types of misinformation. And to give you an example here, so this is an example of the different motivations we can see. So this is a fake photo that circulated during Hurricane Sandy that hit the East Coast of the United States a few years ago. And this person shared it on Facebook. He's not a journalist, just an average citizen. Saw it, thought it was incredible, posted it to Facebook. You know, nature is so powerful and so beautiful. You know, he commented on his Facebook page, and this went crazy. It got hundreds of thousands of shares from just an average person's Facebook page. And the arrow there is pointing to kind of the moment where he posted a comment and said, oh, I think this isn't real, you guys. I'm really sorry. And of course, he wasn't being malicious. He wasn't trying to fool people, and he felt so bad when he realized that this was fake that he posted about it. And so you have somebody who means completely well, who's an average citizen, who unwittingly passed along this information. And then you have people like these two. Now, the US election was kind of a high point for online misinformation. This is an example of 2 people on Twitter going through the emails of James that had been released from the Clinton campaign and deciding that any reference to food was actually a reference to child sex trafficking. And people actually believed this. This helped spread the Pizzagate conspiracy theory that ended up with a man going into a pizza shop in Washington, D.C., and firing shots because he thought he was going to save the children that were supposedly being trafficked. And they knew what they were doing, and they were malicious in what they were doing. But online, it's hard to know everyone's motives. The other thing that we have seen, and we have journalists around the world working on this particular topic, is that it is a global phenomenon. We did a story where we looked at stories about Angela Merkel in English and in German, and we found that the far right was far more effective in spreading its message on Facebook in German, and that articles that were extremely critical of her, that were anti-refugee, that were anti-migration, were the ones getting the most engagement. They were far more organized and getting far more engagement. We also, in our Japanese office, we discovered that a guy had been spreading fake news stories to incite some of the existing tensions between Japan and South Korea. Ultra-nationalists in Japan don't like South Korea. And so he wrote fake news articles to appeal to their points of view. And when we sat down and interviewed him, he told us he hadn't really made any money, but he certainly had gotten a lot of attention. And he felt bad about what he had done, but mostly I think because he hadn't made any money, to be honest. And then we also looked at Italy, and we saw one of the most popular political parties there was also spreading fake news on 2 websites that a lot of people didn't know was actually connected to the parties. And this goes on and on from one country to the next. We've seen this over the last year. In this case, in France, the second vote is coming up very soon, and we've been seeing far-right people spreading hoaxes, and we've been seeing actually an alignment between far-right trolls in the United States teaching people on the far right in France how to create memes and how to spread hoaxes. And it also happens in societies that are just coming out of authoritarian rule, societies where the internet is still really new. We had a story about Myanmar where people were creating rumors and false news that were anti-Muslim and that were really causing people to exacerbate the tensions that already exist there in terms of religious beliefs. And this is something that is, again, core to online misinformation. It feeds off of polarization and our human biases. We love to receive information that aligns with what we already believe. If you tell me something and I already believe it, then I actually feel good. I have a physiological reaction that makes me feel good. If you tell me something that contradicts what I already know, chances are I won't want to believe it. And here's an example of 2 kids that I encountered in Canada. These are 2 teenagers. When I found them last summer, they were running 3 websites that were filled with completely false information. And they were doing it to make money. In their best month, they made $12,000 Canadian from Google AdSense ads on these 3 websites. And when I talked to them, I realized that, I asked them what makes fake news spread, and they said, well, you just tell people what they want to hear. People online believe a lot of things, so we appeal to that. This was a 16-year-old saying that. It's not a complicated thing to figure out. And for them, they had put 2 things together. One was our very handsome Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, which usually people don't really know about the Canadian Prime Minister. He's the first one that people around the world have really been aware of. And they combined him with marijuana. And they would write hoaxes about Justin Trudeau smoking marijuana and selling marijuana and opening marijuana stores across the country. And it did really, really well on Facebook, and people were sharing it. And they just kept doing it again and again and again because it fed into some perceptions. What we see in the United States is that political polarization is getting worse and worse. There used to be kind of a middle ground where people might actually vote for one party, one election, and another party next, where there was kind of people who were sort of soft Democrats or soft Republicans. And that middle ground is starting to kind of recede. And we see more and more polarization in society. And what we saw in the 2016 election was that the fake news that spread and got the most engagement really fed into that polarization. And not only do we see this happening as a trend in society there, what we've also seen is a trend in media. This is a graphic that shows a representation of what people are sort of calling hyper-partisan sites in the US. These are extremely partisan websites that cater to Facebook, that often push material that is misleading or false. And the graphics that are in red show you the networks of all of the conservative-leaning sites. And the ones in blue are the liberal-leaning sites. And these are very tight networks that when a piece of information ends up on one of them, it can very quickly, within a matter of minutes or hours, end up on 10, 20, 30 more websites. And if that piece of information is false or misleading, suddenly it's propagated to a huge amount of people. And in some cases, the more misleading it is, the more it's going to spread. And so what we see is basically an alternate media universe where more of this misleading and false information spreads. And it's an alternate media universe that exists that reinforces the leadership like Donald Trump or others, and it makes him feel free to get up and to say things like this to a CNN reporter at a press conference, because he's got a whole world of partisan media that is going to celebrate him doing that, and that is going to amplify his messages. And so we have in the middle the mainstream media that is often characterized as liberal, and surrounding it, as you saw in that graph, is this hyper-partisan universe that does extremely well on Facebook and that is pushing out partisan information constantly. This goes to the role of Facebook in all of this, and you heard Edward Snowden talk about the power that Facebook and Google have and his concerns over censorship. The people who are creating misinformation are creating it in one sense for people, but in another sense they're also creating it for the algorithms. And they're exploiting the things that make readers on Facebook and elsewhere react most to this content. They go after emotion, they go after polarization, they go after views that will make you feel good, and they don't feed you anything that contradicts what you think you know. We did a study where we looked at 3 left-wing sites and 3 right-wing sites, and we fact-checked more than 1,000 posts from them over a period of 7 days. And what we found, when we also compared that to the level of Facebook engagement for these posts, is that if you look at the red bars, that was content that we fact-checked and found to be mostly false. And so content that was mostly false had among the highest engagement on Facebook of any of the content put out by them. So the more false your content is, the more misleading and the more partisan it is, the more you get rewarded by the algorithms. And so this creates a cycle where it just continues to go, and you have this alternate universe of people being fed misinformation constantly. I think this is it's a sad quote, but it's one that I think represents where we're at today. Whoever has the most people and activates them the most effectively determines what truth is. When you have a massive network of partisan sites, massive Facebook pages, and you put out information that's going to align with those points of view, whether what you're pointing out is true or not, is accurate or not, becomes besides the point, because through repetition, it becomes to seem more real and more real and more real. And this is one of the challenges that we have in society today. The other piece that we've learned is how profitable misinformation can be. One of my takeaways of the last few months is that misinformation about American politics is now an international business. We found teens in Macedonia, we found teens in Kosovo, we found people around the world who are creating completely false articles about American politics and earning money from it. This is an example of one of them. It's a website called truetrumpers.com. It's run from Kosovo. And this is one of the things they do. They make up a political quote from an American celebrity. They have very poor grammar, if you can understand what they tried to do here. And they put it on Facebook. And when you look at this, it looks kind of like any other article on Facebook. It's got a photo of Clint Eastwood. It's got a headline. It's from a Facebook page purporting to be aligned with Donald Trump. But when you click through and you go to the website, there's actually no article. They've literally just made up a headline. And if you can find it, there's the text. That's the only thing that exists on the page. And everything else around it is an ad. So they're earning money. All they need is your click from Facebook. And once you get there, they don't care of even bothering to write a fake article anymore. The headline did the job, because that's all people see on Facebook. And people will share those kinds of things on Facebook without having read them. And on it travels, getting more and more clicks. And this is the scenario we're in. We also looked at a selection of more than 100 sites that publish completely false information, not political sites, but ones publishing hoaxes. And we found that some of the largest ad networks out there were still helping those sites earn money. Google AdSense had 17 of them on it. They took 5 off when we told them the sites we'd found. And so what you're seeing is a business model for misinformation. There's always been propaganda. There's always been disinformation for political goals or either types of goals. But people can now quite literally earn money, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars a month, by making things up and making sure they appeal to people on Facebook. Are you suitably depressed now? Have I really just taken everybody down? Good. That's what I'm here for. The other thing that we see a lot, again, is how do you get through to people who don't want to hear it, who believe something and you're telling them that that's not the case? And it's really tough. We did a really basic, quick story. There was a Facebook page that supposedly belonged to Tiffany Trump, one of Donald Trump's daughters, and it had on Easter this photo of Donald Trump and Jesus in a really warm embrace. And it was a kind of over-the-top image. And people were sharing it saying, wow, Tiffany Trump's really intense. This is something. And so we wrote a story to tell people, look, there's no evidence this is actually her Facebook page. And so I shared the story. It was written by one of our colleagues. And this was the response from one person. So I wonder who'd be hugging you. Oh, right, Satan. So by debunking this piece of misinformation, we were doing the devil's work. And it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to crack through to people. And as much as I know you're depressed right now, I have to tell you, I end up on most days feeling more optimistic than I do depressed. And I do think that there are things that we can do, and that's what I want to leave you with now, is to think about some of this. And you've heard some good ideas today, and by no means do I think I have all the answers. But I think one of the things that we need to do is what I've tried to contribute right now is to understand the problem. Understand that it's complex and there are a lot of different factors. There's financial motivations, there's political motivations, there's all different kinds of motivations. And if we can start to understand that, then finding solutions is that much easier. I think we also have to realize, especially journalists, that when I talk about the confirmation bias of people wanting to get information that confirms to what they believe, that affects all of us too. So we think we're being rational, but we're not. And we have to kind of check ourselves all the time and realize this, especially when we're trying to come up with solutions. I think the other thing, and Edward Snowden mentioned this, is that we have to look at the power that Facebook and Google have, and we have to think about ways of covering them and holding them accountable. We can't allow them to become the de facto censors of the internet and of the world just because of the power that they have. And so for us, we view them as we do covering governments. We try to cover them with an angle towards accountability. And I think that's really important. The other thing is really finding some inspiration in doing this work. I think that for a long time, journalists, when we saw something false, we would just sort of leave it alone and say, oh, well, it's not true. I'm not going to do anything with it. We need to engage with information that is, we're not sure whether it's true or false, and inform our audience about that. We need to engage with things that are false and make sure people know. And that's a different mode for a lot of news organizations, but it's a powerful role that we should adopt. And that goes along with our mission of informing society. And the last thing is how important it is to experiment and to try new things. We do a weekly fake news quiz at BuzzFeed because our readers love quizzes, so we do a quiz. We have a video producer who's making videos that will go on Facebook at 20 or 30 seconds to debunk misinformation. And we're going to try everything we can to get this moving in the right direction. And I believe that there are lots of things that will work. We just need to figure out what we need to try to get there. And to leave you on an honestly optimistic note, I've been looking at this issue for several years now. And when I think about the last 5 or 6 months, we've made more progress and there are more people engaged, governments, technologists, journalists, others, in this issue than in the last 5, 6 years. There's more people thinking about this. There's a whole event today dedicated to this issue, and that's what really matters right now. And so I encourage all of you to take what you've heard and learned today and to do your part on this, and also to realize that it is a complex problem and the battle's just begun, but I do believe that it's one that we can make great headway with. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your inspiring words, Craig Silverman from BuzzFeed. Now, I would like to draw your attention for a little bit to the great movies you will be seeing here tonight. They're made by our very own students from RITS, and they made an interpretation of all the topics you all have been discussing here today. Enjoy.
Wolf! Wolf! Sheep! Wolf!
An applause, please, for the students of RITS. Great movies. The first prize we will be awarding tonight will actually be awarded in Jakarta as we speak right now. The UNESCO Canoe World Press Freedom Prize is what I'm talking about. Jakarta is a bit too far, so we will honor this prize here in Brussels. The award wants to honor anyone who has made an outstanding contribution to the defense of press freedom, especially when this has been achieved in the face of danger. Please welcome the UNESCO Director, Paolo Fontani.
Everybody, guten Abend, bonsoir. Very grateful for being here tonight, for being invited. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here today on World Press Freedom Day. I think in the final stage of a very successful and fruitful conference. It is a privilege for UNESCO to patron Difference Day, as we're doing this year, and I'd like to start with congratulating Vrije in particular and its partners for having chosen to dedicate this Difference Day to the theme of the truth about fake news, a burning issue for many journalists and media freedom defenders around the world. This theme is also particularly fit for UNESCO this year, as the day, World Press Freedom Day, which we celebrate since a long time now, is called today Critical Minds for Critical Times. Journalism stands before a horizon where all challenges are merging with new threats. Post-truth, combined with the concept of fake news, raise questions that go to the heart of free, independent, and professional journalism. The media business is being shaken to the core with the rise of digital networks and social media, and citizen journalists are redrawing the boundaries of journalism. In the online world, the lines are blurring between advertising and editorial material. We just heard our colleague and friend from BuzzFeed telling us a little bit what this is all about. Media accountability and credibility have never been that low. And as we heard today during the different seminars, there is an issue of rebuilding trust between the media, and particularly the media professionals and the citizens. The stakes are clear. More than ever, what we need is original, critical, and well-researched journalism guided by high professional and ethical standards. Every year, the 3rd of May is a date which celebrates the fundamental principles of press freedom. It is a day to evaluate press freedom around the world, to defend the media from attacks on their independence, and it's a day to pay tribute to journalists. I think many of you here are part of a profession. Some of you, as the students today, are people that want to become journalists in the future. And I think today is the moment to dedicate one thought for an entire day to the profession, which sometimes costs lives or costs a lot of pain to the people that exercise their profession. Far too often, murder remains the most tragic form of censorship. 102 journalists paid this ultimate price in 2016 alone. As a UN entity with a mandate to protect the free flow of ideas by word and image, UNESCO is particularly interested and dedicated to working across the world to protect the safety of journalists and the possibility for people to express their opinions. While we speak, UNESCO's main celebration of World Press Freedom Day is taking place in Jakarta, as it was just reminded before, and we decided to reward Dawit Isaak, an imprisoned Eritrean Swedish journalist who will receive this year the 2017 UNESCO Guillermo Cano World Press Freedom Prize. Mr. Isaak spent 16 years in jail without charge or trial. When the free flow of information is hampered, the void is more easily filled by disinformation, which is unacceptable and weakens societies as a whole. Free, independent, and pluralistic media has never been so important to empower individual women and men. And this needs to be combined with audiences that have the ability to understand and analyze media and information, and this probably through media and information literacy. UNESCO believes that media and information literacy efforts have a central role to play in building the necessary defenses in the minds of individuals to face the fake news phenomena. Every citizen has a direct stake in the quality of information environment. Fake news can only take root in the absence of critical thinking. Critical times for critical minds, we were saying before. Today, on World Press Freedom Day, UNESCO calls on everyone to sharpen their minds, to defend their freedoms that are essential for justice and peace. I thank you very much. And I also would like you to listen now and watch a short video that is commemorating the 20 years of a UNESCO Guillermo Cano Prize on World Press Freedom. Thank you very much again for your attention.
Прошлый год мы жили под угрозами. У меня страха нет.
Thank you, Mr. Fontani, for your very inspiring words, and also a big thank you, of course, to all those people who were in this video and who showed courage. A big applause to them again. Also, thank you for being here with us, still here tonight. And also a big smile for the people at home or somewhere else who are watching online. You are also part of this event, and you just have to log on Twitter and search for the hashtag DD17 and let us know what your thoughts are. Thank you. Now, we would like to pay a tribute to world journalism, and especially to people who try to be a journalist, who try to report in face of very difficult circumstances or even in face of danger. Today we invited two very brave journalists from Burundi. Their profession is in danger in their country, their free speech as well, but they never surrendered. And they're here to witness about all their experiences. Antoine Kaburahe is a founder and director of Iwaku, recently the sole independent medium in Bujumbura, and Innocent Muhozi. He was a founder of Radio TV Renaissance that was destroyed by the security forces 2 years ago. Please welcome these two very courageous gentlemen on the stage. Welcome. Please, some words. I think it's on.
I will speak French, sorry.
It's okay. Speak as you wish.
Bonsoir à tous. Le 14 mai 2015, le pluralisme de l'information a été atteint de plein fouet au Burundi. Au petit matin, une fumée flottait sur la radio-télé Renaissance de mon ami, sur la radio publique africaine, sur la radio Bonécha, sur la radio Rema. Toutes ces radios ont été incendiées, détruites. Jusque-là, le Burundi avait l'avantage d'avoir une presse dynamique, diversifiée. On pouvait écouter les radios locales, on n'était pas obligé d'écouter la BBC, RFI, La Voix de l'Amérique. On avait vraiment l'avantage de pouvoir écouter les radios de chez nous. Ce matin-là, on a tout perdu. Ces médias ont été détruits. C'est vrai, il y a eu certainement des erreurs, il y a eu des péchés, mais ces médias ne méritaient pas d'être détruits par le feu. Là, c'était la radio publique africaine, une des radios les plus écoutées du Burundi. Après cette destruction, la peur au ventre, on a essayé de relancer, d'essayer de travailler très difficilement. Aujourd'hui, les journalistes sont suspects. Ils travaillent dans des conditions très, très difficiles. Et c'est très difficile de faire comme avant. On a perdu cette liberté d'expression, ce dynamisme qui avait marqué les médias au Burundi, qui faisait vraiment la fierté des médias en Afrique. Aujourd'hui, les journalistes sont éparpillés à travers le monde. Nous comptons plus de 100 journalistes en exil. Notre journal, depuis bientôt une année, on ne sait pas où est un de nos collègues, Jean Bigilimana, qui a été enlevé et on n'a même pas retrouvé son corps. Mais plus que jamais, nous voulons continuer le travail, nous voulons continuer à informer, nous voulons vivre l'information comme un sacerdoce. Nous voulons que le Burundi retrouve un jour la confiance la liberté d'expression. Nous voulons rendre l'espoir aux Burundais en leur offrant ce qu'ils avaient de plus cher, à savoir la liberté d'expression. Merci donc à vous tous qui continuez malgré tout à soutenir les médias au Burundi. Merci aussi pour l'invitation. Ceci nous encourage. Être là, c'est un signe que nous ne sommes pas seuls. Et je suis sûr que mes collègues aujourd'hui au Burundi vont se sentir encore une fois encouragés par cette invitation, par cette reconnaissance. Merci à tous.
Bonsoir, merci. Je m'appelle Innocent Mohozi, je suis directeur de Radio-Télévision Renaissance, qui est une des 3 stations qui ont été détruites dans la nuit du 13 au 14 mai 2015. J'ai vu le cœur là avec Nohate qui est là, et je me suis dit, c'est pas la peine que je dise ce que j'avais prévu, parce qu'en fait, pour comprendre ce qui nous est arrivé, c'est simplement cela, parce que nous sommes radicalement engagés à tout faire pour que le discours de haine ne revienne pas dans notre pays. Et c'est tout simplement de cela que nous sommes victimes. On peut chercher 15 autres explications, il n'y en a pas. Nous avons été détruits par l'État qui a trouvé le prétexte de la journée, de la nuit de la tentative de coup d'État pour régler un problème qui l'empêchait de gouverner. Je rappelle que les stations indépendantes avaient déjà été coupées de l'intérieur du pays et elles ne mettaient plus que sur la capitale. Donc quand le coup d'État arrive, ils ont finalisé le projet, la destruction physique à coups de mitrailleuses, de lance-roquettes, de grenades. C'est comme cela qu'ils nous ont attaqués, qu'ils nous ont détruits. Nous sommes plus ou moins une centaine en exil. Il y en a qui ont été tués au pays, c'est Christophe Ngezebahizi, sa femme, 3 enfants qui étaient chez lui en train d'étudier. C'est le cas de notre collègue Jean qui a disparu, qui a été enlevé, mais qui a certainement été aussi tué. Nous avons des collègues qui ont été torturés. Nous avons des collègues aujourd'hui qui sont en exil, qui perdent des parents, la mère, le père, le frère. Nous avons un collègue, par exemple, dont la petite sœur a été tuée de plus de 50 balles dans le corps, 50 balles, tirées par des policiers. C'est cela la situation des médias aujourd'hui. Mais encore une fois, nous avons des difficultés pas possibles pour travailler, mais qu'est-ce qui fait que même en exil, ceux qui se sont retrouvés en exil ont tout de suite essayé de recommencer, de continuer. Parce que notre obsession, notre combat radicalement, c'est de dire qu'il ne faut pas que la haine ethnique revienne dans notre pays. Et comme le gouvernement compte sur l'ethnisme pour continuer à gouverner, pour expliquer et justifier ce qu'il fait, c'est pour ça qu'ils essaient de nous faire taire. Donc moi, quand j'ai vu Nohate, là, j'ai dit, mais c'est ça, c'est dans cela que nous nous trouvons, ce n'est rien d'autre. Si vous voulez comprendre ce qui nous est arrivé, c'est parce que nous disons, nous n'acceptons plus, cette génération qui est la nôtre ne va plus s'accommoder de l'ethnisme, ne va plus s'accommoder des gens qui sont tués, qui sont jetés dans des fosses communes, qui sont torturés, qui sont forcés à l'exil en silence. Nous n'acceptons pas ce huis clos-là et nous en payons le prix. Bob, qui est dans la salle, a été mis en prison pendant un certain temps. C'est le directeur de la radio publique africaine. Nous avons été victimes simplement de ce combat parce que nous disons un être humain est un être humain. Et chaque fois qu'il a fallu se informer, dénoncer sur des abus aux droits de la personne humaine, parce que je vous dis entre parenthèses, hein, pour ceux qui se souviennent ou qui ne se souviennent pas, vous savez, la Bible, je suis un athée, mais la Bible, au fait, la Bible a été utilisée pour coloniser l'Afrique. Mais c'est la Bible aussi qui a aidé à libérer l'Afrique. Parce qu'une fois que les gens ont dit, attendez un peu là, on est tous des enfants de Dieu, on est censé être traités de la même manière, mais c'est cet outil-là qui a permis aux gens de dire, mais au fait, pourquoi on serait des humains de seconde zone? C'est la même Bible, finalement, qui a aidé les esclaves à survivre à leurs conditions. Et nous, notre Bible aujourd'hui, c'est une autre Bible, c'est pas celle-là, c'est simplement la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme. Nous la prenons très au sérieux. Et c'est cela qui fait que, j'entendais ce débat aujourd'hui, de la confiance, du trust entre les médias ici et les citoyens, nous n'avons pas ce souci. Parce que pendant des années, nous avons une telle crédibilité dans la société qu'il n'y avait pas d'autre solution pour le pouvoir que de nous détruire physiquement. Simplement parce que nous sommes restés sur cette Bible-là, la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme, de tout homme quel qu'il soit, quand il y a eu des problèmes contre des étrangers, entre guillemets, dans notre pays, les Congolais, les Tanzaniens, les Rwandais, les Omanais, que le gouvernement voulait expulser, les mêmes médias indépendants ont dit, mais pourquoi? Ce ne sont pas des voleurs, ce ne sont pas des criminels, pourquoi vous les persécutez? Quand ils ont adopté qu'ils ont essayé d'adopter la loi contre les homosexuels dans notre pays, on a fait les mêmes campagnes en disant, mais en quoi est-ce que la vie privée des gens vous regarde? Et quand aujourd'hui ils essaient de dire, de monter les Hutus contre les Tutsis, c'est la même chose. Donc nous disons, le seul repère pour nous, c'est la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme. Nous sommes prêts à payer le prix. Nous avons la chance d'être vivants. Beaucoup de nos compatriotes qui sont au pays vivent dans des conditions de terreur difficiles à décrire. Mais encore une fois, nous avons ce privilège et cette fierté d'avoir le soutien de la population, des gens qui savent que nous sommes pour eux un secours quelque part. Et rien que cela, ça nous motive fondamentalement pour continuer ce combat. C'est malheureux, quelque part, malgré tout. Trop de gens chez nous ont tendance à penser que ce sont les médias qui vont trouver des solutions à tous les problèmes. Mais quelque part, ça vous montre aussi à quel point nous avions réussi à avoir une crédibilité dans la société basée simplement sur ce fait que nous n'avons pas d'autre repère que la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme. Il vaudrait mieux m'arrêter parce que sinon je vais continuer. C'est des choses qui nous passionnent, c'est des choses qui me tiennent tellement à cœur, mais c'est aussi des choses qui valent la peine. Moi, je crois qu'ici, en Occident, vous devriez vous remettre en cause, refaire cet exercice de dire est-ce que nous répondons aux préoccupations des gens? Est-ce que vous ne parlez pas un peu trop des classes moyennes et pas de tous ces clochards qu'on voit un peu partout, beaucoup plus à Paris qu'ici peut-être, mais qui sont des humains qui ont besoin aussi qu'on parle d'eux, qu'on parle de leurs problèmes et que les politiques s'occupent de ces problèmes-là. Merci beaucoup, je n'irai pas plus loin, merci encore. Pardonnez-moi, nous n'aurions pas survécu sans la solidarité de beaucoup d'organisations européennes, américaines que j'ai vues ici, que ce soit Committee to Protect Journalists, Free Press Unlimited, Reporters sans frontières, AMS, RORIPEC, etc. Si nous sommes encore capables de travailler tant bien que mal sur les réseaux sociaux, c'est grâce à cette solidarité-là que nous pensons être normale finalement. C'est une solidarité qui doit rester entre tous les humains. Si nous sommes blessés, torturés, tués là-bas, vous êtes aussi torturés, blessés, vous êtes concernés, vous êtes menacés aussi. Merci encore.
Thank you, Antoine Kaburahe and Innocent Morsi. Wow, that's very exciting. I have exciting news because I'm very delighted with my next guest, although it's a video message, but he has a very, very dedicated message for us. Let's find out.
The European Union is the strongest defender of this fundamental right all over the world. Unfortunately, Reporters Without Borders warns that media freedom is under threat like never before. According to several reports, journalists are being intimidated not just in authoritarian regimes, but also in countries that are usually regarded as democratic. In our immediate proximity, Turkey has allegedly become the world's biggest prison for the media profession. According to the Stockholm Center for Freedom, around 200 journalists were jailed and 150 media outlets were shut down in the aftermath of last year's coup. Many journalists are in jail and oppressed in China, Russia, Belarus, and countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. The European Parliament will always defend those exposing injustice, condemning any and all attempts to censor journalists. I therefore, once again, call for the immediate release not only of the German Turkish journalists Denis Yüksel, but also those unjustly detained around the world for doing their jobs. When we consider press freedom, we also have to look at the internet. It is a source of knowledge as much as it is a source of concern. Almost half of all Europeans get their news from social media. This has made spreading fake news far too easy. There are mounting concerns over disinformation and hate speech used to promote radicalization and fundamentalism, particularly among young people. Together with journalists bound to ethical guidelines, we must promote a greater accountability of online platforms. Today, we must remember and pay tribute to all journalists who have died or been jailed for their commitment to providing citizens with facts. Their freedom is key to making the world a better place. Today, I want you to know that you are not alone in this fight. The European Parliament will always be on your side.
Wow. Antonio Tajani, all of you. Thank you for your message, although you couldn't make it. So tonight we're all gathered here because freedom of press and speech is so precious. Now some of us just excel by doing what they do. We would like to honor that. We would like to honor those people with our first prize, the prize for European Journalism 2017. It rewards people who excelled in making Europe understandable, and we all know how important that is in these days. People who are passionate about Europe are rewarded. First, I'd like to join me on stage the previous winner of this award, Mark Peperkorn, based in Brussels. Welcome. I always forget my microphone. Journalist for the Dutch De Volkskrant. You got the award a couple of years ago. Mr. Peperkorn, why was this prize so important for you?
Well, when I got the prize 2 years ago, in 2015, I was standing here, more or less, and I was proud then, and I'm still extremely proud, actually. Why? We've been talking a lot this day about independent and free media. And I think the other side of this coin is actually that you also need independent prizes. And actually, the Evans Prize for journalism is the only true European prize for journalism. It's not nationally biased, it has no flaws in preferences. It's really truly European. And if you look to the current debate about the EU, I think it's something we really need now more than ever. I mean, don't take me wrong. I don't say that the EU, which I cover as a correspondent, needs protection. You know, it's not kind of an endangered species. It certainly doesn't need propaganda. I mean, we have a lot of that already, more than enough. I think the EU, what it needs, and I think what the EU correspondents in Brussels try, is give it a very critical coverage. I think that's more than ever needed now, and therefore I think the Evans Prize is very important. And if I can continue, just two last sentences, is because of this critical stance which is really needed for European journalism, I'm extremely happy with the two prize winners today, Tom Nuttall and Christophe Zatter, because they both...
we were going to announce
sorry.
Oops.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought it was known.
It
Well,
was
I will just say,
surprise.
the two people who won the prize, and I know them, I'll keep the scoop for you, they really, for me, embody, let's say, this critical stance. And to conclude, part of the prize is a little magnifying glass. And for me, it was symbolic. I thought like, okay, keep this glass, spot on the EU. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mark Pieper. You can take Of course, this prize couldn't exist without the great efforts of the Evans Foundation, and that's why I'm honored to give the floor to Corinne Evans. She's a co-founder of the Evans Foundation.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much. We are happy and honored to be here. So, I'm delighted to be here to honor the winners of the Evans Foundation Prize for Journalism of 2017. This event is very dear to me because the prize for European journalism created by our foundation gives me the opportunity to award today two people who represent journalism at its best. First, a few words about the Evans Foundation. At the end of the Second World War, my parents, Irene Evans Radziminska and George Evans, left Poland and had the chance to settle in Antwerp. Once their business was established, they wished to give something back to Belgian society and beyond to European society in general. Thus, the Evans Foundation was born in 1990. It is now a European public benefit foundation based in Antwerp with offices in Paris and Warsaw and known for its programs and initiatives. My parents' vision and my vision is summed up in the foundation's motto, living together harmoniously in Europe. To help realize that vision, our foundation has focused on three fields: peace education, media education, and European citizenship. Within that frame, for many years, we have initiated great projects in the arts, science, intercultural education, media, conflict prevention, and so on. We also award prizes to highlight achievements led by a strong European commitment. One of the aims of our media program is to promote high-quality journalism, media literacy, and a critical mindset towards information. In the wake of this program, we decided to award a new prize every 2 years, the Evans Prize for Journalism. Journalism and media professionals have never been so challenged as today. The development of the internet, the fast and wide dissemination of unchecked information, and even alternative news, which claim to be forms of post-truth information, only to cover the lack of facts and arguments, have seriously compromised the integrity of public debate. In this new context, journalism has more than ever a decisive role to play. It has to rely on a body of empirical facts, verified information that we can accept as a common starting point for a collective search for truth. Isn't search for truth a democratic value? These days, it's hard to inform people about the European Union in a way that grabs the headlines. In spite of its flaws, the European project was born out of conflict and a kind of perpetual peace for the first time in human history. We should never forget that the European project is about cooperation, diversity, and harmony. For journalists specializing in European affairs, the concern for plurality of ideas and viewpoints, as well as the commitment to a critical mind, are dearly needed in these days when Europe has become the ready-made culprit for all the difficulties encountered by European countries. The Front National vote in France is a good example today, where I live. These qualities are outstandingly incarnated by our laureates. But these qualities are also at the heart of Evans Foundation initiatives. Taking our differences seriously and working from them for a common purpose, defining and respecting norms are core values because they contribute to the enhancement and integrity of humankind. These values are at the heart of the Evans Foundation purpose. This is what our European Journalist Prize is all about. It honors journalists whose work helps to make the European project more comprehensible for a broad audience, who have an impressive record of reporting or commenting in Europe. I want to thank for all their hard work the International Committee, who drew up a short list of the many impressive candidates, and also the international jury of journalism experts who made the final choice. I should also explain the beautiful Gorelska designed public symbolic award for the winner of the main prize. It represents a loop that you will see later, the small magnifying glass used by diamond professionals and jewelers in memory of our family tradition. It helps, symbolically, careful examination of reality. Europe was built on the ruins of World War II and One and Two, by people with a vision of a united and peaceful Europe. They worked hard to realize it, but we need to keep building it. At a time of endless disinformation or falsehoods spreading online, like digital wildfires, when so much of our media is reinforcing people's worst instincts, the kind of work that our laureates are doing is crucial. I'm truly delighted to honor them this evening. The winners of this year's Evans Foundation Prize for European Journalists are Tom Nuttall of The Economist, who wins the main prize, and Christopher Zotter of Profile Magazine, who receives the Encouragement Award for Young Journalists under 36.
Journalist for the news magazine Profil, or I'd say Profil. Zotter is an Austrian young journalist who excels in the various ways he brings important European matters close to his readers. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And the winner of the award itself is Tom Nuttall from The Economist. You write on European politics and economics, and you have excelled, as I was told, in covering the European migrant crisis. Congratulations, Tom. 3. Congratulations. Maybe, are you happy?
I'm very happy. I'm not sure it matches my hair.
It matches great, really.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor. Thank you to Corinne and everyone at the Evans Foundation, not only for this prize, but for your contributions to this day of press freedom celebration at BOZAR. And thanks also to the organizers of this fascinating and inspiring event. Just a brief word on the importance of keeping Europeans talking to one another and the role of the media and encouraging them to do so. And I'm afraid I'm going to mention Brexit. Speaking a couple of hours after Britain's Prime Minister mentioned dark conspiracies in Brussels that are meddling in British elections, egged on as she is by some elements of the British media, it's hard to be optimistic about Britain's place in a common European media landscape, but I'm going to try a little bit. One of the biggest stories in Britain in recent days was the fallout from a colourful account of a dinner last Wednesday between Jean-Claude Juncker and Theresa May, which was published a few days later in the Frankfurter Allgemeine. In some ways, the story highlighted my country's tendency to insularity and to linguistic ineptitude. Many Brits had to rely on a tweeted translation of the article's highlights by one of my colleagues. But it also showed the role of the media in helping to foster a nascent public space across Europe, even if only on interests of parochial concern. One of the paradoxical consequences of Brexit is that some of my compatriots are actually taking a greater interest in what's going on elsewhere in Europe than they have for years, an interest that will largely have to be satisfied by journalists in other parts of the continent. Now, I'm as skeptical about the possibilities of a genuine pan-European media space as I am about a political one, but at least in times of crisis, we are forced to pay a little bit more attention to what some of our colleagues, some of our friends are saying in other parts of the continent. So I hope that my colleagues in the media across Europe can continue to play a large role in encouraging and nurturing these conversations. Thanks again to the Evans Foundation for recognizing our work.
Thank you, all of you. Maybe we can take a picture together. You can take a seat there then. I thank you. Back to your seats. Thank you very much. Applause. I was too quick, but I was saying that these videos are truly great, made by the students of RITS. So, our next celebration of excellent journalism is the imec Press for More Award for Original and Better Journalism. This award honors inventive and promising practices or projects. It aims to encourage more and better journalism in a way that is innovative, of bringing news closer to citizens. Don't we want it all? So, to reward this award, I'd like to welcome, through Lefebvre on stage, the Director Corporate Relations at imec. Mouthful. I see you have a nice award with you.
Yes.
Yeah. True, welcome. Why is the Press for More award important to imec?
Well, first of all, let me say that as a partner from the start, and Caroline knows, we truly support freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even freedom of science, and so on. Now, as a research center in nanoelectronics and digital technology, we have the ambition to improve the world and people's life by using technology. So what we are doing, we're doing research on chips and sensors of the next generation, combined with our expertise in data intelligence, security, privacy, to come up with innovative solutions in all kinds of domains: health, smart cities, smart buildings, but also media, entertainment, and gaming or telecommunications. So to end and make this picture complete, we're also stimulating young enterprises or entrepreneurs and startups to come up with innovative solutions in any domain, and as such also in media. So this is the answer to why is imec interested in this kind of activity.
Yeah. So it's all about innovation. I can say, what do you seek for in the candidate winner?
Well, we are aiming for better and more innovative journalism, but based on the technological component. So what we are looking for is, first of all, it needs to be an European initiative with some innovation in it, digital innovation, and with some impact, proven impact. So it needs to already be more than just an idea or a proof of concept, and with the potential to further be developed. So this is what we are looking for. Now, the winner has it all. I won't say it, I'll leave you the scoop. But the winner has it all in the sense that he found a solution for a problem that we really recognize. We all know the frustration that when you start reading an article on the news site, that all of a sudden a message pops up and says, well, sorry, if you want to read further, if you want to continue reading this article, please register or subscribe or pay or whatever. And on the other hand, you have the news companies who want to try to create an affordable model, a model that also creates kind of a relationship with their readers. So how to do this? How to combine these two wishes or whatever it is? So this is what the winner has trying to do.
Thank you so much. She knows I'm a news journalist, so I love scoops, and I have one tonight. The winner of the imec Press for More award is... Would you like to say it through?
No, please, okay. Go ahead.
Maxime Monet with Project Pool.
Hi everyone, my name is Maxime Monet, so I'm the co-founder of Pool, which is a young company created in France in 2016. And first of all, I have to say that it's a great honor for me to be here with you, and it's a great honor to receive this prize, so many thanks. And maybe just before explaining to you what we do, I just want to say that I think we are living in one of the most exciting era for digital publishing. Why? Because we can observe the shift in the way publishers monetize their content, which was on the digital really oriented by advertising, is going to be more and more driven by subscription, by the reader who pay for the news. And why it's very enthusiastic, it's because the future of journalism is in the hand of the readers. So to drive more and more subscriptions on their websites, publishers tend to push what True described is the paywall. They want to stop you reading the first line of the article and say to you, okay, you have to pay. So they push different kind of solution, of paywall, method, freemium, different kind of solution. But actually it helped to transform some core user into subscriber. But what about the rest? What about the people that are less engaged and won't pay now for the news? In France, we found that 50% of the users, when they are facing a premium content, leave directly the website. They don't go on another article, they leave the website. So I think that publishers need to use their data to create more complex journeys than just subscribe or leave options to their readers. They need to create custom relationship with their readers. And that's why we created Pool. Pool is a data-driven platform that enables publishers to create custom journey for their readers and to leverage them individually in order to increase average revenue per user. And our first product is a dynamic paywall. Dynamic paywall, why? Because it will allow the publisher to set different rules for different kind of readers. I just take an example. Maybe if we see that you are an occasional reader, we'll say to you, okay, you want to access premium content? This one is free, it's for you. Just check what we do. And we have many, many rules available for the publisher. And very proud to receive this prize because our main goal is to create sustainable revenue for the publisher and to give them the tool to do so. So that's a great honor for me to receive this prize, and many thanks.
Thank you. Who would like to take a picture, please? A picture with you two. Okay. Yeah, there. Maybe here? Okay, it's okay. As you wish. You can watch everywhere. Thank you, thank you. Congratulations. I checked in on Twitter just now and I saw that a lot of you were using the hashtag DD17, and I can guarantee you, you can't do that until the rest. Oops, oh my God.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Is it possible to do it again, the movie?
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
I'm so sorry to disturb, but I think we saw it twice now. So, the temperature is rising as we get closer to a very important moment this evening. Tonight, the universities VUB and ULB are also granting an honorary title for freedom of expression. This title seeks for those who excel in fighting for that right, the freedom of speech. Please welcome on stage the rector of the VUB, Caroline Pauwels, and of the ULB, Yvon Angler. So, Mr. Angler, what's the importance of the honorary title for the university? can you explain us? I will give you a microphone for that.
Thank you. It's not important for the university. It's important for our society. It's important to fight for our freedom. And it's today, I think, a world of threat about that. So freedom of speech is something that is value for today and for the future. And the university is a place where at the same time present and future are constructed. And our both university were built on that idea that freedom of speech, freedom of thinking is on the basis of development of new knowledge and of a better world. So it's an evidence for us both, I think, that freedom of speech is the basis of our nice life. And when we have heard and see difficulties and horrors, we must fight stronger to defend here our freedom of speech, which I think is not as safe as it has been in the decennies before.
Thank you so much. It was a simple question maybe, but your answer was very inspiring and very true. So, Mrs. Pauls, what do you seek for in the winner of this title?
What we seek for is that, in a way, it can be an organization, it can be an individual, it doesn't have to be a journalist, it can be an artist, it can be a scientist, it can be a politician. And we are looking for people who really, in a structural way, support freedom of speech and sometimes really do their heart, their best, just to promote this important freedom that we perhaps do not cherish enough. And perhaps we do not think enough about the evidence or the non-evidence. We heard the people from Burundi. We were discussing all day long about places where this freedom is not so evident. And therefore, we look for people who really give their life to defend this.
So it's a title for courageous people.
It is a title for courageous people, for courageous institutions who repeatedly try to really defend this, yes.
Okay, I'm going to do you two the honor, it was asked, to proclaim the winner of this prestigious honorary title from VUB ULB. So, take away.
We always do this together.
One by one.
We do everything together. So, the prize, the honorary title for Freedom of Expression 2017 is going to the Global Investigative Network of Journalists. So, and Margot Smit will...
Congratulations, yes, you can take the floor. Margot Smit, member of the Global Investigative Journalism Network and winner of this prestigious prize.
Thank you. Is this working? Yes. Thank you so much. This is my Oscar moment. I won't cry, I promise. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the member organizations, the board and the staff of the Global Investigative Journalism Network, I am so honored to accept this award, the Difference Day honorary title for freedom of expression. I'll explain to you what the Global Network is, because I'm sure you haven't heard of it, and that's exactly, in a way, what we want, because it's not about the network, it's about the members. We are very gratified to receive this award on World Press Freedom Day, as we stop to recognize here, but in many places in the world, that press freedom is under unprecedented pressure worldwide. Our members that I accept this award on behalf of, they know this pressure firsthand, for they are on the front lines of the fight against fake news and for public accountability. The Global Network is the Global Association of Investigative Journalism Organizations. There are 145 members in 62 countries, organizations that represent thousands of investigative reporters around the world. It is an investigative journalism ecosystem, I always call it, a network that spans the world, and it has to, because in a globalized world that we live in today, money crosses borders. Politics, corruption, crime, they all cross borders with impunity, and we need the watchdogs who will hold the power accountable. Those are the journalists. We cannot do it alone as journalists. The Global Network's task is building the infrastructure on which all these watchdog journalists and organizations can depend on. They can teach each other. They provide the skills and the training, the tools, the techniques that we use, the networks and the resources for investigative reporters to do their job. The Global Network is a network. It has a small staff in Washington. I hope they're watching, and we're so excited. We've been working at this as a very small group of people running this organization since 2001. And it has this secretariat in Washington since 2012. But this is our first award, and we're so excited. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vrije Universiteit, Brussel. Thank you, Universite Libre de Bruxelles. We are so honored. Thank you, UNESCO, for promoting World Press Freedom Day and journalist safety. Threats to our safety are but one of the many obstacles put in our way by corrupt officials, repressive governments, organized crime, crooked businessmen. We all know them. We face a lack of resources and a lack of access to documents and data. Threats and intimidation, lawsuits, prison sentences, violent attacks, and yet, despite all that, the ranks of investigative journalists are growing and getting stronger. We have, in fact, more journalists in more places with better tools to do our job than we have had in a long time, maybe than ever before. All that gives us hope, as do you, by giving us this award. Who comprise this network? I'll give you a few examples because I can mention 145, but I won't. You've likely heard of one that's called the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. They won a Pulitzer Prize for exposing the network of offshore assets. Only 2 weeks ago they got it. But you haven't heard probably of the Serbian Center for Investigative Journalism, which just won the European Press Prize for revealing the Serbian government's claims of a crackdown on corruption that were not true. You may not have heard of the Nepal Center of Investigative Journalism, which coordinated half a dozen media outlets in Nepal on doing research into where the money went to after the earthquake of a couple of years ago. You may not have heard of Ojo Público in Peru. They run a stolen memory project, tracing thousands of missing antiquities and other cultural artifacts across Latin America. You may not have heard of, I have to practice this name, the Amabugange Center in South Africa. I probably will not pronounce it correctly, I'm sorry. But this is a project that has documented the glaring conflicts of interest by President Jacob Zuma, and that is not without threat and without threats to your safety. These are only a few examples of the important work that the members of our network do. The network itself provides them the resources, the training, And we like to keep on helping them. Getting an award like this really helps us as a network to help our members. We accept the award only on behalf of our members. They are what it is about. With this award, you as the universities are sending a message to our global network that we are not alone and that the forces working towards press freedom, independent media and accountability are still alive and are fighting back. And for that, we are deeply grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot Smith and the other members of your journalism network for all your work. Can I sit here? All those videos were made by students of RITS here in Brussels. Today is not only about talking or rewarding, but also about committing and seeking for action. Because fake news is not fake, it is very real. And we have to take action, like yesterday. And that's why we will sign tonight a manifesto here to take action. Again, I welcome Caroline Pauls from the VUB to explain the manifesto.
So, Difference Day for us is really about the whole network of people, of organizations like Amnesty, like the Motion Picture Association of America, like Evans, like UNESCO. And we really try to think about themes that can be important to the subject of freedom of press. So this year, together, we chose fake news. Now, in order to have an effect, we organized several debates during the day, but we also, together with the University of Ghent, and I really want to thank the authors of the manifesto, the people from the VUB and ULB, we wrote a manifesto that we will hand over to the Minister of Media of both communities, although there's only one minister standing today here. And the idea is to sensitize all these stakeholders that have to take their responsibility in really combating fake news. And this is the responsibility of us media users, because we are the social media. We are the ones that really share things that are perhaps not true. So it is up to us to check again and again in order to not spread fake news. But it's also the responsibility of what we call then more classical media, the people that have a daily task to feed us with true facts and true arguments. It is also a responsibility of the tech platforms, and Greg was talking about that, but it's not only them. And it's also, we think, a responsibility of the policymakers. And again, we had debates covering all these different responsibilities, and the manifesto really wants to also inform our policymakers of the things we think are important in order to, in a long-term view, together with all the media players involved, but also us media users, to just stop the spreading of fake news. This is an utopia, of course. There was always fake news, but we do think that it is today that we should act urgently. So, thank you.
Thank you, Caroline Pauls. So let's ask, first of all, Dirk Voorhof from the University of Ghent on stage. And of course, our own Minister of Education and Media, Sven Gatz. And Yvonne Anglaire. I almost forgot about you. I almost forgot about you. So.
Universiteit Gent en Universiteit Brussel werken samen op een aantal vlakken. Normaal gezien worden conclusies getrokken na een conferentie op het einde. Maar hier is dus een ploeg VUB, UGent samen met de ULB aan het werk geweest om eigenlijk al de conclusies te schrijven van dit congres al vooraf. Maar we hopen dat deze gebalde principes die onder de titel manifest zijn geformuleerd, ook de beleidsmakers kunnen inspireren. En dat is ook de reden, denk ik, waarom de mediaminister is uitgenodigd om ervan kennis te nemen. Dank u wel.
So, congratulations, you received the manifesto as a first person in Belgium. An applause, please. So, I would like to sit you here. Also, Mr. Vorov, you two can stay if you want. I need you in a minute. So, we talked about free speech tonight. No talking. So, we talked about free speech tonight, but does that mean anything goes? The no hate speech movement would say no. I already have a pin here, no hate. The worldwide movement tries to protect free speech by raising awareness online for hate speech or against it, by showing solidarity, by saying no to hate speech. I would like to welcome on stage Yvan Angler from the ULB, sorry, and Caroline Pauls. That's why I asked you to stay here, because otherwise we had to go back and forth. So, Mr. Angler, my first question is for you. Why does ULB support the no hate speech movement? Maybe it's a silly question again, but please enlighten us.
We see in the society today that the speech of hate is used to divide our society, to simplify the questions, and to try to push people to forget that there is no other way to live together than to have sometimes hard discussions, but to try to respect each other. And in that way we see that the hate discourses are part of an evolution of a society that we should fight against it. So no hate doesn't mean no disagreements, no fights, but within a frame that is not forgetting the basis of human relations, and that's why we support no hate movement.
Thank you. Ms. Pauls, the VUB also supports the movement. Do you want to give a message to your students by doing that?
Yes, of course. As universities, I think it's our perhaps most important task to sometimes tell what we think is important. And I think that for the day as today, there are two important messages. One, the person who silences others to speak will run the risk of be silenced himself or herself. That's a very important one. So I think, therefore, we need to stand out for freedom of speech. But the one that spreads also violent messages or hate messages runs the risk of becoming a victim of violent messages and hate speech as well. And so I think for both our universities, we are not only in favor of free inquiry, which is indeed the fundament of our working, our functioning, but we also think that humankind can only progress by gentleness and not by violent messages or hate speech. So that this is of major importance, and I think we try to spread this to our students every day. Talk, but talk respectfully, and listen respectfully as well.
And is there somewhere where people can get this pin?
There are plenty of pins at the reception, I think, and so together with the initiators of the No Speech movement, we think everybody should just get out and spread the message.
The no hate message. Okay, and let's welcome Minister Sven Gatz here again to sign the No Hate Speech movement. I also like to ask Andy de Meulenaren on stage and Manu Menil, the ambassadors for the Flemish and French-speaking regions. And last but not least, Zoltan Zaubener of the Council of Europe, Liaison Office to the European Union Center. Welcome all of you. Okay, he's not here.
So this is for our Burundi friends.
Hate speech can target anyone. Hate speech may be anonymous, but its victims are real. It affects all of us. Hate discriminates. Words, pictures, music. The wall of hate is the wall of shame.
I think the most important thing is to mobilize, in particular, young people to take part in the discussion going on online.
The No Hate Speech movement is a campaign against fear by the Council of Europe. It's a campaign for young people who want to stop discrimination and hate speech online. Report hate speech content to Hate Speech Watch and become an online human rights defender. We stand for a web in which freedom and dignity of all human beings are respected. Join the No Hate Speech movement today.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, or almost, it is always, and I want to stress this, an honor to conclude Difference Day. Time goes by quickly, and this is already the third time I am giving my remarks at this event. Thank you for the invitation. And this is merely to illustrate how much I value this day, the World Press Freedom Day. Freedom of the press remains one of the key values in our liberal society to me. It is the foundation of our parliamentary democracy. And let's keep this in mind, there is no democracy without citizens defending their opinions or sharing them with one another. Commencing in the days of the Enlightenment, this was done through books. Later on, this was done through flyers or magazines, followed by radio and television. Finally, the Internet presented itself as a platform for free speech and for press freedom. Democracy is equally impossible without a free press. A parliamentary democracy is ought to mirror the public debate, distributed to the channels of the press, to society as a whole. And this also works the other way around, where the press brings a public debate to the seats of the parliament. It is therefore self-evident that free speech and freedom of the press are basic rights are deeply ingrained into our Constitution. And in normal circumstances, elections, but also citizens' consultations are part of a democratic structure as well. Recently, however, and we all know this, we were shown differently in cases where elections or referenda were organized in countries with no free speech and non-existing freedom of the press. Unfortunately, this was taken a few steps further in the past days when an online information platform such as Wikipedia was blocked. I cherish the very fact that free speech and press freedom are basic rights in our Belgian society. Yet, this is still not a universal right. Recently, our press freedom has been threatened by a new phenomenon. Online and offline media are confronted with hate speech or fake news and fake news. And the question is, how do we cope with this? Just now, as you have seen it before your eyes, I received the manifesto on fake news, stimulating media awareness, as you probably know, or maybe could know, is a cornerstone, an important one in my media policy, targeted at shaping aware and critical citizens that are able to balance, and balance is a very important word here, the news flashes from wherever they might come. During the Living Library workshop this morning, so I've been told, young students were able to discuss this problem of fake news with some journalists. And I heavily support this manifesto and believe that we must continue to demand the right to information and news that was not tempered with or came from an unreliable source. News and information is supposed to help us getting smarter, gaining insights in a problem, helping us to think critically and act accordingly. It should never be purposed at misleading people. Together with the rectors of the VUB and the ULB, Caroline Pauwels and Yvon Anglaire, I signed the targets of the No Hate Speech platform, as you also witnessed. And together, I really believe, and together is the most important word, we can stop hate speech. It will not be evident, it will not be easy, but we can do it. And we can even stop hate itself. By engaging youngsters and their teachers or counselors, by providing tools to protect themselves and to tackle the issue at hand. And ultimately, eliminate hate speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by thanking everyone who once again organized this great event. First and foremost, both universities, but also the various students, professionals, journalists and experts, as well as interested people who decided to come to this third edition of Different Day. Special thanks also to VRT, RTBF and the wider press for reporting on this event. All day we talked, you talked about their and about your core business, about our core business. Difference Day keeps us on our toes and helps to safeguard our most beautiful freedom. And to me, that is worth every ounce of energy required. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very pleasant evening and let's do this together. Thank you.
I want to dance by water beneath the Mexican sky.
First of all, I will not be mentioning them, but I want to thank all the partners that just gave their free time to organizing this event. I will not name them, but they know I was sending enthusiastic mails to everyone, just feeling very grateful. Without all of you, it would not be possible, and I think Yvon agrees with me. But I just want to name somebody. We both became rector at not a sudden moment, but it was planned, or indeed we know that we became rector. And I didn't want this day not to take place. And therefore I had to build on a person who has become over the years very dear to me. And so I just want to give a big applause to Ilya and to give her flowers because she is a... And the flowers, Ilya, are somewhere, but that's everything.
Flowers, Caroline. Okay, there. Gesture that I didn't pick myself, but they're going to be handed out right now. I want to thank BOZAR for making it happen. I want to thank all of you, of course, and the people who are watching at home or somewhere else, online. Let's cherish the freedom of press and free speech every day, please. For those of you, by the way, who don't want to rush home, there are drinks at the networking event in Horta. Enjoy.